happy thoughts.
Every boy except
I am
one
youth.
grows up.
I am joy. I am the bird who is broken out of the egg. I want to be
grows
I
up.
am youth.
Forever and
I am
always
joy.
one except
I am
one
the bird
grows
who is
up.
broken out of the egg.
Every boy except one grows up. Every boy except one grows up.
And always have fun.
Every boy except one grows up.
I have a rather startling confession to make. I cannot remember writing Peter Pan. It seems as though he has always been here, and yet I think I can remember a time that he wasn't. What I would give to go back to that time, to know how all that must now end began. Some say that we are different people in different parts of our lives, but I think one remains the same throughout, merely passing, as it were, from one room to the next, but all in the same house. If we can unlock these rooms of the past, perhaps we can peer in and see ourselves, busily occupied in beginning to become you and me. Thus, if I am his author, if I ultimately am responsible for what has happened and what will happen next, then the way this is to go should be revealed by the occupants of the first compartment, at whom we can now take the liberty to peep.
Must be that Peter again.
Children, as you know, have the strangest adventures without being troubled by them.
Whatever do you mean, darling?
For instance, they may remember to mention, a week after the event happened, that while they were in the wood, they met their dead brother and had a game with him.
It was so naughty of him not to wipe his feet.
It was in this casual way one morning that my brother David made a disquieting revelation.
Peter comes into the nursery and sits on the foot of the bed and plays his pipes.
And you wake up to see him?
No,
Then how do you know?
I just know.
What nonsense you talk, Precious. No one can get into the house without knocking.
He comes in by window.
My love, it is 3 floors up.
There are leaves at the foot of the window.
Why didn't you tell me?
I forgot.
That night, my mother would let our nightlights burn a little brighter. I could see in my mother's eyes all I know and would ever care to write. But I cannot remember now if that actual incident ever took place. I remember very little else about David, only that he was a merry-faced boy who could run like a squirrel up a tree and would shake the chairs down into my lap. He was 13 and away at school, and I was half his age when the terrible news came. I have been told that the face of my mother was awful in its calmness as she set off to get between death and her boy. We trooped with her down the hill to the wooden station. I know we played around her, proud of our right to be there, but I cannot recall it. I speak only from hearsay. Her ticket was taken. She waved goodbye with that fighting face which I cannot see. And then my father came out of the telegraph office and said huskily, "He's gone." And then we turned, very quietly, and went home again, up the little hill.
Whatever
hearsay no longer. I knew my mother, forever now.
It is well. He will be a little boy forever now.
She was always delicate from that hour, and for many months she was very ill. From that moment on, she turned her face to the wall.
To die would be an awfully big adventure.
Draw maps of other parts of you, and your own map can become intensely interesting.
But you'll never catch them trying to draw a map of a child's mind.
Which is not only confusing,
But keeps them around all the time!
there are zigzag lines of lines on the chart. These are probably the roads on the island.
For the Neverland is always more or less an island.
With astonishing splashes of color here and there, and coral reefs,
And rakish-looking craft in the offing!
And savages!
and lonely lairs. Oh, and gnomes who are mostly tailored. Oh, and caves through which a river runs, and princes with 6 elder brothers. and a hut fast going to decay, and one very small old lady with a hooked nose.
Of course, it would be an easy map, if that were all.
But there is also first day at school, and religion, and fathers, and the round pond, needlework, murder, hanging,
Oh, Latin conjugation.
chocolate pudding day, getting into pajamas, 3 pence for pulling out your tooth yourself, and so on. And either these are all part of the island, or they are another map showing through. And it is all rather confusing.
Well, especially as nothing will stand still.
Mary Ansel.
Of course, the Neverlands vary a good deal.
An actress. A leading lady. She left the stage to play a different kind of role.
John's, for instance, has a lagoon with flamingos flying over it, while Michael's, who is very small, has a flamingo with lagoons flying over it. John has no friends. Michael has friends only at night. Wendy has a pet wolf forsaken by its parents.
Of all delectable islands, the Neverland is the snuggest and most compact. Not large and sprawly, with tedious distances from one adventure to another, but nicely crammed.
We too have been there, and we can still hear the sound of the surf. Though we shall land nevermore.
When we played it by day with the chairs and tablecloth, it is not in the least alarming.
Oh, but in the 2 minutes before you go to sleep, it becomes very real.
That is why there are night lights. Quack.
Okay. Not yet.
The kiss is mine.
cry.
What is your name?
Wendy Moira Angela Darling. What is your name?
Peter Pan.
Is that all?
Yep.
Where do you live?
Second to the right.
And straight on till morning. Mary Elizabeth Ansell.
James Matthew Barrie.
I like to think that it wasn't my proximity to death from pneumonia that convinced you to marry me.
I only love clever men. Clever men, it seems to me, are made up of reserves. It is out of their reserves they bring their clever things.
What are your exact feelings for me?
Those of you who voted, son Wendy.
I thought so.
You are so strange. Tinkerbell is just the same. There is something she wants to be to me, but it is not my mother.
No, indeed, it is not.
Then what is it?
It is not for a lady to tell.
You think that one day they will open their reserves, and that you will be the favored one who is admitted to the cupboards where they keep their clever things. But that is an illusion.
Do you want this back now?
David? David, is that you?
It's not him. It's me. It's just me.
Oh, David! You're in.
I met the Llewellyn Davies boys.
Jack! George! Peter! Michael!
Before I met their mother.
Sylvia!
We were at a party. You spent most of the evening secreting sweets into your handbag.
Oh, for Peter. They adore you. Michael tells me you're writing a story about your adventures in Neverland.
I'm not completely certain I'm the one who's writing it.
Some can eat and cannot eat, and some may not and cannot eat, but some may eat and want it, and some may eat and take it, and some may eat and cannot eat, and some may eat and want it, and some may eat and want it, but we the Lord we thank it, and so the Lord we thank it.
Some hay need and cannot eat, and some hay none that want it. But we hay need and we can eat, and so the Lord we thank it. There could not have been a lovelier sight. But there was no one there to see it, except for the small boy staring in at the window, looking in at the one joy from which he would forever be barred. Everyone remembers where we left the store when we last left our story.
Yes.
There was midnight. And we know what happens at midnight. The magic wears off, that's right. And Cinderella has to leave the ball as fast as she can and run before the prince discovers the truth. The clock struck 12, and Cinderella ran as fast as she could from the room as her gown started to turn into rags and the coach turned into a pumpkin. She got to the top of the stairs, and her shoe.
You'll see the boys in the park tomorrow.
You wouldn't want to keep Mary waiting.
There is nothing more pleasant than an evening for you and me when the day's toil is over than to rest by the fire with the little ones nearby.
It is sweet, isn't it, darling? I think Curly has your nose.
Well, I think Toodles takes after you.
Dearest, with such a large family, of course, I have passed my best. But you don't want to change me, do you?
No, darling.
This is all just make-believe, isn't it?
Tink?
Is that you?
No, it's not him, you silly ass. It's me. It's just me, it's Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Lady!
Oh.
Cynthia Asquith, another leading lady looking for a role to play.
I cast her as my personal secretary.
She was, in fact, your anchor.
Lady Cynthia had a knack for keeping men in order when there looked to be danger of their overstepping the mark.
Are we in Neverland or in South Kensington this afternoon?
I'm here.
Mr. Conan Doyle stopped by. He wanted to know your opinion on the likelihood of a clutch of fairies in his rhododendron bush. I told him you were working.
Thank you.
Fan mail. All they require is your signature. Dear Mr. Barrie, whatever happened to Tinkerbell? Dear Mr. Barrie, I want to be a pirate. Is that bad?
Dear Mr. Barrie, who's your
Dear
favorite
Mr.
lost
Barrie,
boy?
I will
Dear Mr. Barrie, have you ever been on board a
Dear
real pirate
Mr.
ship?
Barrie,
Dear
can I be
Mr.
one of
Barrie.
the lost boys?
Are all pirates scary?
Dear Mr.
Dear
Barrie.
Mr. Barrie,
where can I find fairy
guys?
guides? Dear Mr. Barrie,
Dear Mr.
whatever
Barrie,
happened to
I want to
Tinkerbell?
go to Neverland. Dear Mr. Barrie.
Were you ever lost?
Dear Mr. Barrie.
Dear Mr. Barrie, have you ever been on board a real pirate ship? Or pirate?
Are you a pirate? Dear Mr. Barrie. I think you're great. Do you want to be friends? Dear Mr. Barrie. I'm going to Neverland.
How many pirates?
Dear Mr. Barrie.
Peter Pan.
Do you still visit Peter Pan?
Dear Mr. Barrie, are pirates or lost boys band?
Dear Mr. Barrie. Have you ever married Barrie or Mike? Dear Mr. Barrie.
Dear Mr. Barrie.
Dear Mr. Barrie.
You're wrong. I can see Peter. I see him in the face of every motherless child I pass on the street.
Mary.
And in every shop window and mirror where he wickedly smiles back at me. From my own childless reflection.
Is that you?
It's just me.
Sylvia? Sir, please. Please, let me. No, wait. Oh. Sir, please. Please. Please, sir, are you a doctor?
Oh! Yes, my little man.
A lady lies very ill.
Tut, tut, tut. Where does she lie?
In yonder glade.
I will put a glass thing in her mouth.
How is she?
James Matthew Barrie, I know, will do everything in his power to help my boys.
She is dead!
Don't let the boys see me again.
Perhaps she is frightened at being dead?
Peter promised to take me part of the way. Second to the right.
The difference between him and other boys at such a time as this was that they knew it was make-believe, while to him, make-believe and true were exactly the same thing.
To know the difference, one must grow up.
I can't.
Of course you can. We all can. We must.
He doesn't.
We'll make him.
Make him.
Show him that we all grow up.
How?
Unlatch the nursery window and bring him home to his mother. He'll stay.
For Wendy.
And then he'll grow up.
The old age of Peter Pan.
End the story.
Peter returned to the nursery every year for Wendy. Unless he forgot. Time passed. Wendy was no longer the little girl she once had been.
Stop, Peter. Stop. I can't go with you. I'll turn on the light and then you can see for yourself.
No, don't turn on the light.
For almost the only time in his life that I know of, Peter was afraid. Wendy let her hands play in the hair of the tragic boy. Then she turned on the light, and Peter saw.
What is it?
I'm old, Peter. I'm ever so much more than 20. I grew up long ago.
You promised not
I
to.
couldn't help it. I'm a married woman, Peter.
No, you're not.
I can be your real mother now. No more make-believe.
He sat down on the floor and sobbed. Wendy did not know how to comfort him, though she could have done it so easily once. She was just a woman now, and she ran from the room to try to think. And so it was. The boy who would never grow up
Boy?
began to...
Why are you crying?
Hello.
Hello?
My name is Peter Pan.
Yes, I know. My name is Jane.
I came back for my mother to take her to Neverland.
Yes, I know. I've been waiting for you.
When Wendy returned to the nursery, she found Peter standing on the bedpost, crowing gloriously, while Jane was flying around the room in her nightie.
She is my mother.
Oh, he does so need a mother.
Yes, I know. No one knows it so well as I.
Goodbye.
And he rose into the air, and the shameless Jane
No!
rose with him.
It is just for spring cleaning time. He wants me always to do the spring cleaning.
If only I could go with you.
You can't fly. Of course, in the end, Wendy let them fly away together. Our last glimpse of her shows her at the window, watching them receding into the sky until they were as small as stars. As you look at Wendy, you may see her hair becoming white, and her figure little again. For all this happened long ago. And when Jane grows up, she will have a daughter who is to be Peter's mother in turn. And thus it will go on, and on, and on, as long as children are happy and innocent and heartless.
Another flop. Destined to always to right or choose. And Mary. Another flop. Destined to always of Jane and Mary. Another.
Mr. Barrie, do you have any comment on the war effort? Words of encouragement for the troops? Reports suggest Jack Davies was a heroic leader in his final charge.
Jack? Out there, the veil that separates the survivors and the killed must be getting very thin. I expect a lot on the other side went off together quite unconscious they'd ever been enemies. To avenge the fallen. That is the stupidest cry of the war. What must the fallen think of us if they hear it?
Mr. Barrie, can you comment on the drowning that took place at Eton yesterday?
Drowning?
Surely you've heard. Michael Davies was found drowned in the pond.
Michael doesn't know how to swim.
What happened, Jamie?
I can't remember.
Where were you?
I was just a boy.
How did David die?
He fell.
How did David die?
He forgot how to fly.
That formal man.
Stars are beautiful, but they may not take an active part in anything. They must just look on forever. It is a punishment put on them for something they did so long ago that no star now knows what it was. So, the older ones have become glassy-eyed and seldom speak. Winking is the star language. But the little ones still wonder. Now, they are not really friendly with Peter, who had a mischievous way of sneaking up behind them and trying to blow them out. But they were so fond of fun that they were on his side tonight and anxious to get the grown-ups out of the way. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the firmament, and the smallest of all the stars in the Milky Way screamed out, "Now, Peter!"
here.
David?
It's not him, it's me.
He's gone!
It's just me.
He'll be a little boy forever now.
I don't believe in fairies.
It's not that I did not love your stories, but that I loved you more.
I tried to love you.
It can't be done that way.
I don't believe in fairies.
The only ghosts who I believe creep back into the world are dead young mothers who return to see how their children fare.
Please.
Second story to the night and straight on to morning.
I don't believe in fairies.
Mr. Barrie, are you there?
It didn't work.
You know what to do.
It's Pan or me this time.
This is just make-believe!
I don't believe in fairies!
Clap if you believe in fairies.
That only works in stories.
Jamie!
Mother?
Jamie, it's time to come in.
I can't. I have to find David. I'm it. You. What are you?
I'm youth.
You are death.
I'm joy.
You are sorrow.
I'm the little bird that has broken out of the egg.
Proud and insolent youth, prepare to meet thy doom. Let me go.
I won't grow up. I won't. I want to always be a little boy and have fun.
I don't.
Remember when we used to fly together?
I can't fly.
The moment you get up and fly?
You cease forever to be able to do it. I wrote that.
Think happy thoughts, Jamie.
I don't believe in fairies.
Think happy thoughts.
I don't believe in you.
Second to the right.
It's time to grow up.
This is all just make-believe, isn't it?
Every boy except one grows up. The horror of my boyhood was that I knew a time would come when I too must give up the games, and how it was to be done, I saw not. I felt I must continue playing in secret. What was it then that eventually made us give to the public, in the thin form of a play, this secret world that we had woven for ourselves alone? Alas, I know what it was. I was beginning to lose my grip. I remember, more vividly than most things, the day I first knew. The blow was struck by the boys, who one by one gave up their belief in fairies and lowered on me as the deceiver. One by one, we swing monkey-wise from branch to branch through the wood of make-believe until we reach the tree of knowledge. This brings us back to my uncomfortable admission that I cannot remember writing Peter. You played with it until you tired of it. You tossed it in the air and gored it and left it derelict in the mud and went on your way singing other songs. And then I stole back and sewed some of the gory fragments together with a pen nib. This is what must have happened, but I cannot remember it. All that is left to me is his smile. I will keep the smile, along with a few other broken fragments of immortality that have come my way. The rest I give to you. He is yours now. This is all just make-believe, isn't it?